listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
New year of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. 2024, we're kicking off with everybody back in the building. That's right, we're all here, ready to start another wonderful year with you all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Hi!
kicking off the new year with a nice little toasty beverage.
It's a holiday ale.
A holiday ale.
Even though the holidays are over.
They don't have to be.
Should all acquaintance be forgot in days of old lang syne?
Actually, technically, the 12 days of Christmas aren't over yet.
2023.
So
That's true. We're still in it.
We're still in the holidays. We can enjoy a holiday ale.
That's right.
There we go. Hey, you already opened it. My goodness. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, I like that.
Is it good?
I wasn't sure how I'd
New
feel about
Belgium
it. But
holiday
I do.
ale.
I like it.
Flavors of cranberry and spice.
Well, when you look
Ooh.
on it, it says cinnamon, and that's the part I wasn't. I love cranberry. The cinnamon was what I was worried about.
But cranberry and beer?
Yeah, cranberry goes with everything, dude. I'll put
I don't
cranberry.
know
I'll put
about-
liquor, any type of liquor in cranberry.
I did
man.
finally get.
Cranberry and bourbon works. Cranberry and vodka works.
My goodness, he's just all over. He's all over the cranberries.
I like it.
Sean's
I
got
love
his-
cranberry.
Why Keith never has a period.
That's
Yeah.
He never has cramps.
I just drink
cramp free.
plain cranberry juice. I'll just drink cranberry juice straight. It's great.
Here's the thing.
Love
That's
cranberry.
good.
That's not
Is
bad.
it
See,
good?
it's
I
good.
haven't tried
See?
it yet.
He didn't believe me.
I'm trying to switch. Hey, I like your Snoopy toboggan there. It looks good.
Thank you. You like cranberry ginger ale?
Well, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I
the
finally
Canada's
got a
dry.
hold of some, and it's my favorite of the year. It's the only time it's out.
Oh, I always get
And
get
it's
some if I
so
can find
good.
it. Yep.
And this year I was surprised because my sister-in-law, I didn't get a 2-liter, and I forgot to go out and get some. You had posted early on in the season that you had snagged some from a store.
Yeah, Dollar General had it on sale. Like you buy a 2-liter, get one
See,
free.
and I knew
basically.
it was
$2.50.
It was
going
going to be dangerous because I knew if I was going to get it, I was going to drink it all. Probably,
Well, yeah,
I was probably going
that's
to go
the
through
point.
like 4 2-liters throughout like the whole season. And
I
can't do
only
that.
went through 2 liters.
Still, whew. But my sister-in-law, she found
That ain't nothing.
that they had cans.
Yeah, they do.
And
have
I've
cans.
never seen that before. If it was I don't know if it was the first time they sold them here. First year they
in
did them.
Louisville. I've not seen any in Louisville.
It was crazy.
The whole month.
I was shocked, and when she had them, she gave me 2, and I was like, "Oh, I'm
It
in
must
heaven
be
now.
something they
This is
have
great.
in special. And which you said it was your sister,
Sister-in-law, Wendy.
sister-in-law Wendy. So
Yep.
it must be in Shepherdsville somewhere if she had them.
It may be. I think it might have been wherever she.
I
shopped.
never saw any in Louisville because I definitely would have bought some. I would have gone through a whole 12-pack for sure.
That's pretty good. It's a little light on the. I do taste the cinnamon.
I don't taste the cinnamon. I taste the cranberry.
Really,
Yeah, because the cinnamon is what I was worried about. Like if I could taste it, I was afraid I wouldn't like it.
Sean. What about you?
I can taste the cinnamon like in the back,
Yeah,
but I do get more
Up
of
front?
I get more of the fruity.
I get
I
more
can
of the
taste that
cranberry. I
cranberry.
do get like now that just in the back, like a little bit.
it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not a go-to, but I'm like that with flavored beers. I'm not a huge flavored beer guy. I just
I just want a
my
straightforward
normal-
beer.
yeah.
But yeah, that was actually it's pretty decent. Like I
So,
would drink that again.
Have either of you tried the one that Kristen and Brian got?
I have not yet.
I have not
I
done the
was
Scotch
waiting- I was
ale
did
yet.
waiting
drink one,
to
but
do it on
I'll,
here.
I'll bring it next week. But yeah, you can definitely.
Yeah,
hit,
I'm gonna
hit the
bring
cinnamon
mine
in
back
that one.
next week. I definitely want to try that. I was
We
looking
are
forward to it.
going to try them on air next week.
Yeah.
We have another beer to try for next week. Thank
These
you
are all
to my
holiday
neighbors.
gifts. This was a nice gift from a friend of Brandon's.
That's right.
His neighbors that we're good friends with got us a nice Scotch ale. I'm willing to try.
I'm telling you. And
But
they
even
gave
my
us,
Snoopy hat here came from my mama.
Really?
So, I mean,
look at that Snoopy walking over.
yeah.
Oh, look, it's so great.
It's comfy. It's very warm.
Are you going to keep it on the whole show?
I mean, I got my
You gonna be
headphones on
burning
over it
up?
now. Oh no, I don't really get hot.
Yeah.
Like I do
Same.
get hot, but not with the beanie on.
Yeah.
Like the people who just wear beanies all the time, I totally get because they're just comfy.
It's really weird. My head never gets hot. Like it's always. I feel the heat in my chest.
That's how I am.
Chest, armpits. That's where I get
Like
hot.
I'll take
Wow.
my shirt
Yeah.
off or I'll go short sleeve. Like
Yeah.
I don't. And cold too, though, because see, I can wear shorts in the snow and it don't bother me. Like literally, just my chest
body.
area has to be warm or hot. Like,
see, I'm totally like the heat escapes through my head, and that's why I keep the toboggan on, and that way I stay warm and it all stays in my body.
Well, my ears get cold. That's why I like to keep it, but they don't get hot. Like if I keep this on, like it'll keep them warm.
That I could understand.
But my ears don't get like hot.
But see, another thing too is my cheeks. If my cheeks and my nose get cold, I hate it. I can't stand it. And I just like, especially at night, if I'm trying to go to bed.
They make face masks, and they actually keep that warm if you want to walk around wearing that.
Yeah, I could. And then, that would have been great during the pandemic. Nobody would have stopped me. Now, everybody would have just thought, are you from L.A.?
Yeah, if you wear one of those, you
still
can
see
just go in a
people wearing
store and
them.
take whatever you want.
That's exactly right.
I went to Walmart to get something for New Year's, and there was a couple in there wearing a mask, and I'm like, what are y'all doing?
I know.
We're getting ready.
Some woman got out of her. I went to go to the UPS store to drop a return back. Mm-hmm. And somebody got out of their car with their mask on. I'm like, you were wearing that?
I'm not gonna lie.
Car, yeah.
I wore my mask in the car the other day because my throat was so raw and sore. It's when we went and saw Aquaman 2, and my throat was so raw and sore, and the cold air kept bothering it. And I was like, I wonder if like the heat and humidity from my own breath will keep it from hurting. So I put this mask on, and like it works. So then I was driving down Waterston with this mask on, like, man, now I'm gonna look like one of those idiots.
Yep.
But I'm legit doing it because it feels good.
It's funny. You were like actually wearing a mask based on logic and not based on fear.
I thought about sleeping in it because like that was my that was my biggest problem while I was
gonna
sick.
Start something.
He
now.
is.
While I was sick, like
he's gonna get all the lefties on his side.
People are gonna start sleeping with the mask on.
I couldn't breathe through my nose, so I'd breathe like with my mouth open.
Okay, you don't need that kind of mask. You just need a CPAP machine.
No. That's not the problem. That's not like the humidity thing. It was clogged because I was sick, so I had to breathe through my mouth. Well, the mask is significantly cheaper than having to buy a humidifier for my room that I only needed for like 5 days.
Put some Vicks inside that mask.
There you
and
go.
Then just put it on your
so
face
I was like,
and
man, if I
breathe
sleep with this on, then I'm not drying my throat out.
And I know we got to get into the show, but have you all ever had success? I did when I was younger with like the Vicks Vapo Rub, like on my chest. Mm-hmm. I have not had any success with that. It works for like 10 minutes and then it subsides.
Put it on the bottom of your feet.
Really?
And then put socks on and sleep like that.
I have never used it and have never.
I'll try it.
I've never felt the need to.
It will. It'll help.
I've only done it when I'm like extremely like stuffed. Yep. And like I just can't breathe.
Take decongestant and that works every time, so I don't worry about anything else.
Honestly, there's times where I've just gotten completely lazy and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna sleep with my mouth open. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna wake up and chance a sore throat. That's right. Because that's what I hate.
The last time I was sick, which was just a month or so ago, I used my HSA and bought a Navage.
Nice.
Dude, that thing is awesome.
If you want, you could probably get a humidifier on Amazon with your HSA.
I don't have HSA.
I went to Walgreens and like the box says HSA eligible.
Yeah,
I knew I could, but that's the like.
Technically, I think
it's $100.
Walgreens.
That's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get into when we got with the HSA. So.
Yeah, we're not talking. It's a new year. We're gonna talk positive.
Yeah. All right,
talk about movies. That we love. Because we actually reviewed a good movie this week. One that I think we were all a little bit... Well, I think we all kind of knew going into it that there had been some positive buzz, but of course, always we got to give it our silver.
Not positive enough.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. I will say... well, you know what? Let's just get into the review, and we'll talk about it after. Here is our review of The Iron Claw.
Happy New Year! That's right, the year's done, and we start fresh with a full year of new movie reviews to look forward to. Last week, we wrapped the year and our holiday reviews with When Harry Met Sally, the movie that ends on New Year's. This week, we kick off the new year with a bittersweet film that certainly encompasses the melancholy of Auld Lang Syne. The Iron Claw, written and directed by Sean Durkin, is a biopic centered on Kevin Von Erich, played in the film by Zac Efron, and the Von Erich family, a family of wrestlers beginning with their father Fritz in the AWA and carrying on to his grandchildren who are still active in wrestling to this day. The movie itself focuses on Kevin Von Erich and his relationship with his brothers and father and their aspirations of bringing home the World Heavyweight Championship. After several career setbacks and the loss of their oldest sibling Jack Jr., who died at the age of 6, The Von Erichs believed the Von Erich name to be cursed, and the film shows their tragic history. While the movie is based on a true story, it is guilty of taking liberties, as almost all Hollywood films based on true stories do, condescending and rearranging some events and depicting Jack Sr. as harsher than what the real Kevin Von Erich claims he was. The movie also leaves out a sixth brother who also met a tragic fate. That said, the movie's focus on Kevin and his mentality, his aspirations for his life, and how he confronted the perceived curse and persevered through tragedy is impeccably done. While many changes may seem major in the scheme of the themes being attempted, most of these changes are understandable. The iron claw of Jack Sr., aka Fritz Von Erich's grip on his children, may be more dramatized than in reality, but it's hard to argue his dreams for his children didn't have some impact on their trajectory. The film is somber yet hopeful, and while it does not reinvent the standard biopic, it executes its story and message admirably and keeps its audience enthralled its entire run. Zac Efron gives a phenomenal performance as Kevin Von Erich, but is also surrounded by a stellar supporting cast, including Holt McCallany as Fritz, Harris Dickinson as David, Jeremy Allen White as Carrie, and Stanley Simmons as David Von Erich, with Lily James rounding out the cast as Pam, Kevin's love interest. Each performance lends weight to the other, and the cast playing the Von Erich family all lend emotional weight to each character and the story. The Iron Claw is simply one of the best films I've seen all year. Its focus on generational trauma, perseverance, and familial bonds pulls at the heartstrings and is made twice as impactful by an excellent script and top-tier performances. Spanning the late 70s into the 90s, set pieces and production value are all authentic, and any longtime fan of professional wrestling will love the care and attention to detail put into the film. More than that, however, the movie has a universal message and story that relates to a wide audience and is a film that deserves to not go overlooked. I give The Iron Claw 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Well, how about that? Kicking off the new year with 3.5 out of 4 stars right out of the gate.
It definitely was up there. Definitely had plenty of issues, I think, that kept it from that fourth, like the full, complete 4th star. But to me, and with everything else we've seen from 2023, this was definitely, I think, the movie that tugged at my emotions the most, and one that I was definitely more entertained by than pretty much every other movie that they're touting as an Oscar contender this year. I said the same thing in the review for The Holdovers, and I'll say it about this movie too. Is this a movie that I would normally think ranks up high enough to be an Oscar nominee for Best Picture? Not normally, no. But compared to everything else that came out in the year, I think it's way better than a lot of the things they are touting for the Oscars this year. So
it's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Especially considering, too.
Well, like I said, it's not a perfect movie. It does have a lot of flaws, but I mean...
And I would objectively, is how you walked out of the theater, how you enjoyed it. Would it be something I'd revisit? I mean, stellar movie. Is it up there with on par in like my top 10? No. But it is a really good movie, and I could easily sit down and watch this again and not feel it all like I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I almost kind of somewhat want to go back to last week's episode when we were ranking our movies of the year.
Oh, that's something.
And I would almost definitely put this up there as one of the better films that released last year because of the fact that it is something that was not only I was surprised by. We may even have a few more of those coming up. We don't know. We're not sure because usually when it gets into Oscar season is when we catch up from some of the later releases from the previous year.
Looking at the top picks as contenders so far, I must say, no, this is probably the end of the good line.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I remember even when I sent you all the list of everything we reviewed last year and told y'all to pick like the top 5 best, top 5 worst, it was interesting because like some of the movies early on were like really good movies, but it was like the previous year was 2022. Yeah, it was like Banshees of Inisherin was a great one.
Yeah, but that came from 2022.
Right, so we didn't include it. So it'll be interesting to see that obviously we can't include it on this year's list when we get to the end of the year. But I will say it's a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. Oddly enough, well, you know what? I'm gonna give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. And I'll give my nitpicks here in a sec. But Sean, what about you? What did you end up with?
I was on the same point, 3.5. I actually got to see this movie while I was on vacation in Alabama. My wife and I were gonna do like a let's leave the kids with Meemaw and Papon do a date night.
Yep.
And dinner didn't work out because of just everywhere there was like an hour wait. And so it was just like, well, would you mind going and seeing a movie? And she was just like, well, what's playing? And I'm like going through the stuff that's playing. I was like, now the Iron Claw is the one I want to see because we're going to review that on the podcast, and I'd like to see it before then. And she had to read about it, and she was just like, oh, yeah, we can go see that.
She's throwing you a bone or something.
So, yeah,
right there.
she didn't really think it was all that great. And I tried to explain to her, I'm like, from a male perspective, I didn't even have any siblings, let alone 4 or 5 brothers.
Yeah.
But I was like, this movie hit me hard emotionally.
Yep.
And it was like got towards the end of the film when I don't want to like spoil it, but when when the brothers reunite.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I lost it in the theater.
Yep.
And my wife was like,
You all right?
yeah. She was just like, really? And I was just like, oh yeah, like I can't. I've been holding it in. I couldn't take it no more. We got on the parking lot and started talking about this movie, and I started crying again.
Yeah.
Because it hit me not just through the film, but then it hit me later after I was thinking about all of it, and I was just like, I really don't want to be a father that compares my children or that pushes my kids to do to meet expectations that I might have that end up harming them in the future.
Right.
And I was just like in the parking lot crying about it, and literally as we drove off, I was praying to myself like, please do not let me be that kind of dad.
Right.
As my
Put
sons,
that pressure on
yeah,
them.
as my sons get older and really start trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do and what their aspirations and goals and stuff are, like what they're into. Right now it's Legos and Pokemon and Mario.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
easy stuff. But when it starts coming down to, I want to play guitar, I want to be on the wrestling team, I want to run track, or I want to play baseball or
Being
whatever.
supportive.
I want to be supportive, but I also don't want to push my kids to think that they've got to be something they're not, or,
Right.
or better than what they really are. And I know there's been some controversy. I even shared an article about one of the real life sons, Kevin,
the only one,
one that's living now, has come out in defense of his father and said the movie does kind of make his dad out to be an a-hole that he really wasn't.
Right.
And I get that. It's like, oh yeah,
It needed an enemy.
Yeah. The movie takes some liberties, and I do think that it made for a better movie.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
this movie wouldn't have hit me in the feels the way it did if that character wasn't the guy that he was in the movie.
Right.
But all that just to say, like, it's a movie that I feel like as a man, when you go see this film, it's going to resonate with you probably more than it would a female.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
honestly, I think it was aimed at like more of
well, I
predominantly
mean, wrestling
male.
period
Yeah.
is aimed
I said,
more
well,
towards the male audience.
Grew up watching wrestling with my brothers,
Yeah,
so like
yeah.
it definitely like just
You
having,
texted me that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I started.
I'm like, I was
crying
driving home thinking
was like-
about watching like as a child watching wrestling matches with like David and Reggie, and like just like the fondness and love I have for wrestling, anyways. And then this movie with his brothers and everything. Yeah, I started crying. I was like, damn.
Yeah, the one
Like-
that, I mean, and again, if you don't know the story, what's funny is after the movie was over, of course, like we often do with any kind of biopic pick or something that claims to be, I kind of want to know like what
Based
was
on a true story.
yeah.
Right,
what was
yeah.
more fact, what was more fiction.
And I feel like
And-
the liberties taking weren't that egregious, because even Kevin in the article you sent when I read it, like he doesn't really bash the movie for making those changes.
No.
He just states that the decisions his brothers made, he
they're-
lays solely on them, and I think that's respectable too, because
Yeah.
even if you want to say, oh, the father drove them to this, they
Yeah.
still had to make their own choices.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I do respect him in that regard, that he was like, no, that was solely on them. I do wonder how much of the father might have been at play in reality. I know he says like he wasn't as bad in real life as he was in the movie.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
going to say. I ended up coming home and watching a documentary, Vice News. They do these behind the ring or out of the ring or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But Dark Side of the Ring, that's what it is. They have like a series on YouTube that they cover all of these wrestling stories from real life. and they did like a 45-minute documentary, and I was like, well, it was already pretty late. I was like, I'll start it, just see what it's like. I watched the whole 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And they actually rushed through, I feel like, quite a bit. I mean, you could literally turn what is like a 2-hour movie into like a 2-hour documentary, and it would be riveting.
Yeah.
Because the fact that if there was anything that I took away from some of the leniency they had within the story that I thought were the biggest negatives, but again, like you said, I agree with why they cut them, and they kind of morphed it into other parts and aspects of the story. That was one, the father being a little bit more of the enemy than I think he was.
They merged one son into.
I was going to say there
others.
were actually 6 kids.
Yeah.
And one that doesn't even appear in the movie.
Yeah.
And I could see how that one would be a little bit harder to overcome, seeing as one, how much focus you put on the family as a whole, to just kind of outcast, Here's the thing. I get it from diehard fans.
Yeah.
Who are just like, that's a disservice to the family. Totally understand. Think your argument's warranted.
Yeah.
Understand if like you don't like the film or even maybe knock off a full star or 2 stars, whatever. But to me, it's one of those things where as an outsider coming in, this was, even growing up with wrestling, the Von Erichs were before my time.
Right. Yeah.
So to hear about this family that I really never heard of.
Yeah. I think, honestly, Ric Flair is the only name out of the whole movie that I was like, oh, yeah, I know who Ric Flair is.
Right. And it's funny because even I knew a little bit about like some of the territorial stuff. But when we were talking, or when I watched the documentary and they were talking about in Texas, it was like the Von Erich family was like known to everyone in Texas. Like they were just a household name. And so I was kind of shocked by that because I'm like, that was one aspect of the film. I didn't really think they show the fans and they show how they flock, but it always seemed like it was kind of this smaller town, insular
Ohio
thing.
Valley
wrestling.
Right.
Like you have, they're all coming to the show tonight.
Yeah, I
They're
actually
our
didn't
fans.
get that. I thought the movie did kind of portray them as.
I did once the first son died.
Gotcha.
When David passed in Japan and they come to his funeral and
and you see all
people
those
are
thousands
flocking.
of people. Yeah.
Right. That one, it did hit me that way.
Yeah.
But I almost took that as, this is their fame, and it's escalating at this point because they're now becoming worldwide.
Yeah.
But even my boss at work had said, he talked about how he knew who the Von Erichs were.
David did, because he wants to see the movie.
And it was funny because he even said one of the knocks he gave it, which again, I get it if you're from that era and you followed them. He was like, Kerry Von Erich, who ended up beating Ric Flair at the time, right after David's death, he said he had a huge stint in WWF and was a huge key player for a long time.
He actually was married and has kids because his daughter wrestled for a little bit.
Wow, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
3 of the grandkids, I think one of Kevin's kids.
Two of his sons are in it now.
So it was 2 of Kevin's sons and then Carrie's daughter, who only wrestled for a short stint, and I think she stopped. But all 3 of them wrestled, because that was something that amazed me, was that, like, I get why you wouldn't cover that in the movie, because that would still be a lot to cover and you're focused on Kevin. But the fact that Carrie actually was married, had kids, and all that before he ever even died, I was just like, oh, wow.
Oh, and that aspect of it. I mean, the way they made that the theme. I mean, I like the fact that obviously they focus on the one living son that's still alive.
Yes.
But the fact that they made his theme and his story arc about him not making the wrestling business his life, and how so much of the others wanting to do right by their dad, however real that was in real life.
Right.
Again, the thematic element of the iron claw on them to perform so well.
Yeah.
I love...
Thematically, it is done really well.
It's fantastic. But also just to see those family elements that he clings to, that is his saving grace, that is not his demise, but turns him around, is absolutely...
It's basically
you don't
what
get
stops
that
him from
anymore
getting the fate that his brothers had.
Yeah. And to see that in a modern film today
was fantastic.
I mean, you don't see that anymore. It's incredible. And the one that got me, again, I don't want to spoil too much. I'll just say one line, and again, if you don't know the Von Erich story, go see the movie. It's worth it, and then check out any other related material. But when he goes, he just says that one line, "I used to be a brother too."
Yeah,
that got me.
Yes,
that one.
That whole scene with his son
that got me hard.
That whole scene with his son hit me hard. Yeah.
And I just couldn't imagine. I mean, I think what shocked me the most was because I came in this blind. And I mean, if you really just watch the trailer, if you're intrigued, you get a sense that there's something that's going to go wrong. But I just thought it was going to be a typical tragedy triumph,
You
It
didn't think it was
goes
going to be that
the
much
movies,
wrong.
the way
yeah.
it's paced. It goes quite a while before tragedy strikes.
Yes.
And that
It
was
builds
that-
up well, I
Yeah,
think,
it does
yeah.
build well, but that was one of the things that I struggled with up to that point because I was just like, I know what's supposed to happen, but
It's
we're
not happening.
45 minutes into this movie and nothing's happened yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm just kind of like, so yeah, I was anticipating, and it was the moment you see them in the bathroom that I was like, okay, this is the beginning of
Yes.
of
Tragedy,
tragedy.
yeah.
And even then, it was that, like you said, that build up to tragedy,
Yeah.
but also the way in which it plays out. It's just, it was. I just was not expecting that. It hit me in such a way that I was just like, it's one of those stories that if you didn't know it, you really would be thinking, if it wasn't based on a true story, like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's-
there's no way this could happen.
That was one of the reasons the director talked about excluding the other son, was because his circumstances were already extremely similar to Carrie's, and how, like, what happens to them happens. And he
You
said,
mean not Carrie? Is it Daniel?
no, Carrie.
Carrie Von Erich?
Carrie's the one that lost his foot, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was the
Yes.
one that.
Yes.
The Olympian.
Oh,
How
okay.
they I don't want to spoil things, but
I heard that the son they left out though was not in any kind of peak shape or wrestler at
Their
all.
ultimate demise was the same.
Gotcha.
Like how what happens to them.
Okay.
So, and they merged Chris, which is the one that was left out. They merged his being weak and not being able to physically do anything with the other one.
I'm forgetting his name, but
Mike.
you're right.
Youngest, yeah.
Mike.
Yes.
They merged that plot with him. And then as far as like the kind of their ultimate trajectory, they left with Carrie because it was already similar.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And he said he didn't think, like, it's already hard enough sitting through like basically 4 tragedies. He said with them being so similar, it was easier to just kind of merge that story with the other brother, which I get. And I understand fans and peers being upset about that too, like you said. But I do understand, like, yeah, it's already a lot to swallow.
Yeah.
So I get that decision.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it just it
I
hits
liked
you in
this
all
good
the no,
Yeah,
it was
it's
definitely emotional and it hit you in the feels.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest impact, is that where it may lack in certain production aspects or in not being the most creative biopic, it makes up for tremendously in the emotional aspects and the story. And I mean, I thought every performance, like, not just, I mean, Zac Efron was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
But-
say. Not
but-
just physically, but I'm like,
Yeah.
when
Oh,
you
yeah.
when you look at the path, I think that he's taken since he was in his like kind of
High School
teenage
Musical,
high school
yeah.
musical, and then he did the Charlie St. Cloud, which is not a good movie, but it does
He
hit.
was-
It has
he was
emotional
trying.
notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tries. But yeah, from there on, like he has just
Yeah.
grown better and better. I would even argue the Baywatch movie is a bad movie, but
He's funny.
his role that he plays in that film is so much on point with the guy that he's supposed to be from the Baywatch show, which I think the guy's real name is like Warlock, Billy Warlock or something like
Okay.
that. But I mean, like in the show, I can't remember his name, but yeah, he's the new guy with this bad boy, better than everybody attitude, and he hits that in that movie. Even in
Yeah.
a bad movie, he's in good. And freaking The Greatest Showman,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
he was fantastic
really,
in that.
like blew my mind that's freaking Zac Efron like acting and not just
I
showing
think
But
off.
not just him. I thought like all
No,
the
all of
supporting
them were
cast.
good.
Like, I mean, I thought the actor that played Carrie was phenomenal too.
That's the guy from The Bear.
yes.
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 And I can't think of his name right now.
Something White, Stephen White, like something Stephen White.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he was phenomenal too. I was like, I mean,
Stephen Allen White or
Stephen
David Allen White.
I think it's
something
Stephen.
like
I think it's Stephen Allen White. I think you're right.
And he's a phenomenal actor in the shows that I've seen. He was in Shameless
Mm-hmm.
and The Bear, and he's going to be another one that in his if he keeps going, his future is going to be. That's. It's
I
just,
think the people that stood out to me most were him, Zac Efron, and then the guy that played David. I thought the 3 of them were all really good.
yeah. David's the
Jeremy Allen
taller-
White.
Jeremy
Jeremy
Allen
Allen
White.
White. Allen White.
David was the.
He's the one that died in Tokyo.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
But
yes, he was good too. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
what
all
else
of them
I've
were.
Seen him
Yeah,
in.
all- I
I
mean,
know the
I wasn't-
dad. I
he
know
was
the
great,
dad
yeah.
from Mindhunter.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
Netflix was the first thing
Yeah.
I seen him
Yeah.
in, and he's phenomenal in that. And for him to switch, and it's funny because, and that was one thing I was going to say is in the documentary they don't show much, but they show you footage, because by the time they were household names, obviously when these tragedies started occurring,
Mm-hmm.
they would do interviews with the family, and he of course is the public facing official for the family, the
Fritz.
patriarch of the and he would go, and you could tell from I will say I understand why Kevin, I mean it's his dad, but also why he would have said they paid him a disservice, because he might have been hard on him, and he might have. It's weird. The movie does a good job of showing that sometimes he's encouraging, and he's like I like the point where Kerry comes home and he didn't make it in the Olympics because they canceled it.
Yeah,
and he said, and a little bit of time has passed while he's been home, and he goes up to his son while they're out there building the fence, and he just says, "All right, son, I've been thinking about it. I want you to join the family business. We need to take back our honor. We need to do." And the way he lays it out is very much hoorah, like you're joining. But the way the brothers come around afterward and congratulate him, it was like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And so I loved that, because I'm sitting here thinking that's authentic. That's him bestowing upon him a manhood.
I think the double side to that, though, is I saw as the brothers were supportive of each other and saw it as you finally made it into the family, the wrestling family. I couldn't tell from the dad if it was
and I think
if it was him just out for his honor and his glory.
I think they played that
sons.
angle. I think they played that angle on purpose.
Yeah.
And for the movie, but I will say I think that's where the reality versus the fiction kind of bled together. Or he toyed with it in terms of making him kind of one of the villains of the movie.
Yeah.
Because when you do see the documentary and you see the glimpses of the footage, you can tell it's not. I mean, obviously, when you lose a child, it's tragic.
Yeah.
And you can tell in the interviews when he's talking to the cameras, he's broken up, he's heartbroken. When you have that first scene with David, or with Zac Efron approaching him at the table and he tells him about David, it's like stone-faced. And I didn't get a sense of, oh my gosh, it's hitting me and I don't know how to emote, and I'm at a loss for words. He just says it point blank, like, this sucks. We got to move on.
Yeah,
and he says it in that kind of tone.
It's
and I admit it was so kind
our
of
chances of the belt are gone.
Right,
but we're gonna do this.
And I was like, that was so raw that I was like, man, this is. I'm not rooting for this guy at all.
But see, I didn't think they played him entirely as just a straight villain. I do think there were moments that I thought they tried to balance out that. Yeah, what the guy did wasn't necessarily right or good for his children, but I do think they tried to show that he did care. That he may have cared more about them getting the title or he didn't show it.
One of the gripes that I would say that I have, and I'm glad you brought that up, and this will be my last point because I know we're dragging on, and everybody else has got stuff to say too. But and I've lost my train of thought. No, one of the things that I thought they were trying to do with the movie that annoyed me a little bit was I thought they were playing into this toxic masculinity thing with the dad. The fact that he teetered on being emotional, but he wouldn't let himself cry.
Right.
And he wouldn't let his family fail, and he would not, really show any kind of affection towards his wife, even other than one scene at the wedding.
At the dinner, at the dinner table. There was the one scene at the picnic. When Lily James comes for the first time.
Yeah, but even then, when the mother starts talking about some of the more tender side of the father, he stops her and nips that in the bud real quick.
He tries.
Because it's kind of like I can't show any
that
weakness or vulnerability or emotion.
Yeah.
And then you have the flip side of that at the end, which is where you start to cry and tear up because Kevin breaks down in front of his own children.
Yeah.
And they tell him it's okay, Dad. It's okay to cry.
Yeah,
and
so good.
And so it's.
I'll be your brother.
That's right. We'll be your brothers.
Oh God, it's
so
good.
it's like
so
I feel like they tried to push just a little bit into the man that can't show the emotion. So I feel like what you're saying is they did try to give these little hints that he was emotional, but then they backed off real quick.
I was gonna say the only thing that jarred it for me is that I just felt like there should have been like an escalation of the devolving into what is this really about, your family or the belt, the pride. And to me that was the only part is because you see him in the early part. I mean, really like the intro is his glory days. And one thing they talked about in like the Iron Claw documentary, or not the Iron Claw documentary, but the Von Erich documentary, they talked about how he was very well known in his heyday.
All of them were much more successful than the movie made it seem like they were.
Right. And so I thought it was interesting that was the only knock is that it's not that I don't think that they did. I think all the elements were in the film that needed to be there. I just felt like they were kind of so mismatched or all over the place that you didn't really get a good through line from beginning to end. It was kind of all mix matched to kind of confuse you, to give you a, at sometimes make you want to dislike him and hate him, and other times feel compassion for him and forgiveness. But ultimately, I just felt like, again, not terrible. We gave it 3.5.
Yeah.
But it was just one of the weaker parts of the film that I didn't think it was very clearly thought out, defined. That and Ric Flair. I liked the Ric Flair. I didn't think the actor did as good a job as I was hoping.
Yeah.
I think
for such an iconic wrestler.
Someone had mentioned what they think they should have done, and I kind of agree, was they should have just used the actual original Ric Flair promo that and just played it, and then had a body double in the ring, because the wrestling match was like 3 seconds long in the film anyways.
Yes.
You don't really see him. So they said they should have just use the actual promo and then have like the body double
in the locker room
match.
too.
Yeah.
You could have just shown it over the shoulder shot in the locker room.
And I'm
with
like,
him to him.
because like they said, they mentioned, it was an article I read, it was a review, and like they said, it's just,
And look,
there's very few people that can do the type of showmanship. Like that's something we talk about with The Rock and his showmanship.
Yeah.
Like that's just a natural talent. Heck, even in the movie when David interrupts and takes the mic from Kevin and Kevin gets mad, it's because David was a better showman and he could talk the talk. And that is definitely something I think professional wrestlers can do when you're really good and you are rising the ranks. There's just a sense of showmanship there that is unmatched, I think, in just an average actor.
But ultimately, along with that, this is one of those things where I also thought, WWE, what are you doing? Like, I mean, come on. These are the kind of movies that you can throw your weight behind, fund it, and then it doesn't have to just be an indie flick.
Yeah.
It can literally be true stories of wrestlers that, like, impact, I think, any person not only grew up with it, but anybody who's just that doesn't really understand the lengths at which these families go through to live that lifestyle and understand it.
I think WWE helped fund Fighting with My Family.
Yeah, The Rock's movie.
Yes.
The Rock movie. Yeah. With
but they've also done like whatever,
See No Evil or whatever it was with
and
Kane or whatever.
Oh yeah,
they've done some bad. Or Undertaker was Undertaker,
and Walking
wasn't it?
Tall with freaking The Rock.
Yeah.
I think they did that one. And
They
one
do
with
a lot
Steve
of
Austin.
like just like action, like cheap action and horror movies, and it's like it does appeal to, I think, their larger crowd base, but it's still, I would rather see something better.
How many people, if this was a WWE production,
they would
not only
absolutely
that,
watch it.
But like if they had created originals like this for their network, I mean, come on. I mean, you're talking this. I'm sure this was like a $15-20 million budget.
Oh, I think fans would absolutely love this too. Yeah,
no doubt. But no, fantastic movie. Absolutely check it out if you get a chance. Are we ready, guys, to move on to our first set of headlines for the year?
I should think so.
Let's do it. That's right. It's our top stories.
Yeah.
Top stories.
That's it. It's our top stories. There you go.
Breaking news. No, there's none. We got no breaking news.
No. All the breaking news always happens after the show.
Yeah, it always happens Wednesdays. I don't know why. It's Mondays and Wednesdays is when things break. If it didn't break. Yep, that's true. Hey, the soundboard works this year.
It does.
Some gremlins are out of there.
You serious, Clark?
That's right. All right, want to talk about the 2023 box office.
Excuse me.
I think there's a little bit of a spin going on here.
No.
Because the 2023 box office ended, and if you just go type in to Google 2023 box office, don't look at Box Office Mojo. It's like the first thing that pops up. If you scroll down a little bit and you see all the news articles, if you read the headlines, every single one of them is written almost identically.
I guarantee it.
All pull from either the same source, whether it's the AP or whether it's Yahoo News and Hollywood Reporter, which I think those are owned by the same parent company because they literally didn't change the headline at all. But it's interesting because they're talking about how much of a great success in the year of adversity that we saw with the writer's strike and the actor's strike, that it crossed $9 billion, the highest since the pandemic. And it got me to think, but we've been hearing nothing but doom and gloom. We've been seeing movies flop left and right. Of course, we had the saviors like Barbenheimer that came throughout the year.
Yeah.
But for the most part, milquetoast releases, subpar movies at best. So how in the world can we sit here and truly claim it is a success considering that we're left with mostly movies that are forgettable?
They're all forgettable, and most of them flopped. And it's funny because it's like, $9 billion against what? Because it's like, we did a $9 billion at the box office. It's like, yeah, but Hollywood spent twice as much to make these movies.
Best box office since the pandemic. That's what they're touting.
Yeah, that might be true. That don't
Which
mean
I'm like,
it's good.
So wait, are you expecting it to progressively get worse since the pandemic?
They have stated that they think it's going to drop next year because this year. Now, technically 2024, I do think in this article it mentions expected to drop by $1 billion in 2024 amid fewer films and waning moviegoer sentiment. So what they're saying is, really, the strikes are impacting this year. There's going to be less films this year,
right?
And people just don't want to go to the movies as much anymore. They want to stay home and stream, which is the same excuse they've been using for a while now, except when you release massive blockbusters like Barbie that breaks $1 billion, or Avatar, which broke $1 billion, or Spider-Man, which broke $1 billion, or Top Gun, which broke $1 billion.
I think Mario broke $1 billion.
It did.
It did.
Yeah.
It broke $1 billion worldwide.
It did. And it's funny that they'll claim nobody wants to go to the movies until people actually go to the movies to see decent movies.
Well, and even then, I mean, when you think about the cultural phenomena, look, and credit where credit is due. I'm not going to knock Barbie or Oppenheimer for being the success that it was. But when you count on those two films to be the tentpoles of what you're calling a successful year, without those two films alone, you would have had $2 billion wiped clean off that total. Mm-hmm. So that already drops you down. And you may say, well, that's not fair. It's like, no, what's not fair is to claim it's a successful year when two movies are propping up what is overall.
When Mario breaking $1 billion,
that one was kind of. I think that one you could see.
Knew. Well,
like,
I mean,
because if you think about it,
to an extent, you could with Barbie too, because that is a massive IP.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody quite. I mean, we definitely didn't hear on the podcast.
No.
If you go back and watch, we didn't think it was going to be nearly as successful as it was. I think we all thought, oh yeah, out of the gate, 300, 400, 500 million, probably it's going to do well, but not $1 billion.
Yeah.
It was incredible for that. Same with Oppenheimer. I never thought Oppenheimer was going to be Christopher Nolan's like creme de la creme most successful outside of Dark Knight.
Well, check this out. One of the articles that popped up, I just happened to read it, was a CNN article. It does. The headline is exactly what you said. They said that the $9 billion that were made in 2023 is $2 billion shy of the $11 million from 2019, prior to the pandemic. These are the movies that came out in 2019. Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, Joker, Star Wars Episode 9, Toy Story 4, your Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, which was a blockbuster when it came out.
Yeah, it was the first spinoff.
Yep, and then you've got Godzilla King of the Monsters, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That was Tarantino. People flocked to go see that. Those were both successful, actually.
Let me see what else. Ford v. Ferrari was a successful movie.
Yeah, it was.
What's the other big one on here? God. Yesterday was that wasn't a box. That was a good movie.
It was a good movie, but yeah. I do Lily James in that one, too.
I mean, when you look down this list, there's a lot of good movies that came out in 2019.
Memorable movies that you can sit there and immediately hearken back to. Not only recall in your mind as far as, I remember that, but also a good movie.
Well, you're talking about, like a list of 5 to 6 movies that crossed $1 billion. Some of them came close to $2 billion. Endgame was almost $3 billion.
Yeah.
So
that's it's surprising that $11 billion was the total for 2019.
Yeah. Well, and you think about that, if you took
and all these good movies came out.
If you took Endgame out of that
puts you down to $9 billion.
That would have put you down to $9 billion this year.
So that one movie alone, and that's the thing. Good releases, but also just how much they are spending. Because in this same article you posted, they talk about how Disney crossed $4 billion global this past August.
Yikes.
Okay, that was after a $4.9 billion global take the year before. So they had 4.9 in 2022. They only did $4 billion this year.
Almost lost $1 billion in box office revenue.
In 2019, they released Endgame, one movie that made
half,
it made 3/4 of what they made by itself this year.
Between that and Star Wars, they made $6 billion.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just 2 movies.
Yeah.
They released, I forget how many movies this year. I think that there was a total
5
of
or 6?
Well, no, I mean, all told, everything
yeah.
they own, I
Yeah.
think it was like 20. There's like 20.
Oh, because if you count 20th century
Yeah.
in there,
they're
yeah.
saying all told, I think they said like they have like 34 releases for this year alone, based on everything they
All
own,
the properties, yeah.
based on everything they own, and you're still only doing $4 billion. Like
That's bad.
That's disaster.
That's bad.
and think about the fact that they
Well,
spent
and all
so much
three.
money
Yeah.
on these.
All three of their Marvel flicks, Ant-Man, Quantumania, no, Guardians did.
Guardians did profit.
Yeah.
It wasn't
profited.
a huge profit, but it did.
But even another tentpole film from a franchise, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana
flopped.
Jones flopped.
Oh,
The
The
Marvels flopped.
Little
You-
Mermaid flopped. It floundered.
Wish flopped, and I'm she had to throw that in there.
It floundered.
Come on, now Sean's back. Sean's supposed to be doing the dad jokes here.
I was just saying, Little Mermaid floundered. But yeah, Wish was abysmal. They
Yeah.
didn't do, like nobody gave a crap about that
Here's
movie.
what's sad is Migration. This was just released.
Yep.
It's actually doing worse and tracking worse than Wish did.
Oh,
See,
wow.
that's surprising because
That
that's
is.
Illumination.
Right.
And they have been beating Disney.
Yeah.
out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Trolls 3 didn't do as much as we thought it would based on the previous two movies.
Well, and look, I think it goes to show you can only go so far with not only franchise films, but things that we've already done and seen before.
You can only beat the dead horse for so long,
Right.
and people are finally tired of it. We're
And
tired
then-
of seeing the same crap over and over.
And look, I mean, say what you will about the geriatric Jones out there running around not being able to perform up to snuff like he has been in the past. But when you crowd around, I mean, look, we knew Barbie and Oppenheimer being released we already knew from the spectacle a few months out.
Barbenheimer.
We knew it was building into a cultural event. You know, we didn't know it was going to be as massive as it was, but with those two tentpole films releasing on the same day in July, and then you had Geriatric Jones, and you had freaking Dial, that is Geriatric Jones.
Dial of Dysentery.
Dial of Dysentery. That's it. Dial of Dysentery. So good.
He's got
But,
so many good ones.
And you also had Mission Impossible coming around the same time.
yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a slew of films that if they were spread out, they probably could have done decently. I mean, no, I don't think Jones would have done that well. And then you had other flops. I mean, Rise of the Beast, Transformers, awful. That is the first movie after Bumblebee.
I know everybody's talking
how
about,
long
is
ago
the
was
Transformers franchise going to turn around? Bumblebee was great. And then they released that turd.
Just incredible. Incredible miss. And it's crazy that throughout the entire year, I mean, part of what drummed up our major headline from last week, the rumors of Paramount being bought out by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, of course, was the
Still
only,
blows my mind, yeah.
you know, was the one studio that knocked it out of the park. They're looking to have another stellar year just because you've got, was it Dune is on the horizon?
Dune, yeah.
You've got, they mentioned some of the other major releases that are set forth to come this year.
I can pull that up real quick.
And honestly, I'd be surprised. I would be because they're touting in this
Dune
article.
Part 2, Furiosa, Beetlejuice 2, Joker.
Joker
yeah.
Part 2, Part 2.
That's a huge year, yeah.
And that's the thing is they're already saying that they don't think this year is going to be as successful as last year because of the strikes. But yet I'm sitting here thinking
Well, they got to get their excuses ready
Right.
early, so
Yeah.
when everything flops, they can be like, it's not because we make crap movies, it's just because of all the stuff that's been happening.
We got Snow White coming out this year,
yeah.
which is, we know that's going to be terrible.
Yeah, we know Disney's not pulling anything out there.
It's fun for all the crap. Like even we, like some of the decisions Zaslav has made that I still don't agree with, as far as pulling things off of Max that they own. I still think it's dumb. For all the crap he's gotten, Warner Brothers did come out
Yeah, they came out on top.
on top. So it's like, I mean, maybe he like say what you will, and yes, I mean, I still don't like the idea that if you own something, I can't watch it on your streaming service. I think that's still stupid. But I mean, hey, maybe he knows something like where to make the cuts to that you have to make. I mean, it is a business, and sometimes you have to make the hard decisions that aren't popular in order to keep yourself from being a Paramount or a Fox that has to be bought out because you've released nothing but garbage.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I love to see that Angel Studios made the list with Sound of Freedom being such a huge
That was
huge success.
it was a huge success.
A lot of crowdsourcing there to get the word out and to get people's butts in seats. I love the little dig they throw in there about, tickets are being sold to empty theaters. And I'm like, no, They were being sold, and people weren't going to show up because theaters didn't have it for the longest time, and it forced people to go and tell their theater owners, "We want this." In
churches
the
were buying out tickets, so they're just padding the numbers. So,
But yeah, no, it deserved and earned every bit of that $300 million. I am looking forward to the movie that they mentioned coming out from Angel Studios this year.
I think Shift.
That one's already out.
That one's out.
That one's
out.
out. Cabrini, I think it's called.
The one about the nun, right?
About the nun.
That one, I agree.
Looks
Looked
very
really
interesting.
Yes,
and the trailer for it at the beginning of Sound of Freedom really, I mean, Angel Studios, I got to give them props. I mean, they're, as far as from the Christian, religious right, they're actually producing things that are entertaining, that are worthwhile, and I'm glad to see success in it, in what they're doing, and just bring it on. I want to see more of it. It's fantastic.
I think they're the ones that have like the
They did Nefarious too, didn't they? Did Angel Studios
I don't
do
think
Nefarious?
I think a different studio did Nefarious.
Well, The Blaze was the one that put it out, but I don't know who they partnered with. I can't remember if they partnered with Angel Studios.
I think Angel Studios is the one that's doing the anime based on the Bible. That I was like, that's interesting. I don't know how Johnny Young Bosch is one of the Red Ranger. From Power Rangers.
No way.
He does a lot of voice acting for English dubs of anime in general, but he's actually going to it's still impressive to me that he's going to work with them too, because that says because certain people it's like, oh, I'm not going to work with a Christian company,
Yeah.
So the fact that he is actually going to do the voice acting for it as well, I was surprised. So I was like, okay.
I'm trying to find out who did Nefarious and who was the actual studio, and I just can't find it up with the articles that I've got pulled up right now.
It's called Gabriel and the Guardians, and yes, Johnny Young Bosch is going to be the lead voice actor. So, and it's from Angel Studios.
I mean, I guess we can end with this headline with this, because I do think there's a lot of puffery going on here from the industry. Look, it's funny because it only takes like a week or two to rewind the clocks. Go watch pull up a major news network on YouTube.
Doomsday.
Everybody was talking about how
dying.
it's been a rough year for Hollywood, and it's looking like it's going to close on a down year. And it was only because they had to wait till New Year's Day to get the final tally of new. And they're of course talking about Wonka being this huge savior of the New Year's Day weekend.
It's been successful, but it's been a very modest success.
Exactly.
It's not been anything spectacular.
This is not something that you would have been cheering about 3 or 4 years ago. And you may say, well, that was because it was pre-pandemic.
And it's a family movie released when nothing else is out. It's what else are they going to see?
Migration, which they're saying that's one of the things that flopped. That was, again, I'll put those both in the same category. They're both disappointments. Whether Wonka won the weekend or not and it's trending upward doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pull. It even said within the article, it's trending to where it'll be just under The Greatest Showman. And The Greatest Showman did not have a stellar release.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge success either.
It had a steady build up throughout the coming or the months ahead because it gained momentum.
Yeah.
But this one looks like it's going to peter off. It's going to teter off, whatever the right
I like peter
idiom
off.
is. I like
Peter off.
Yeah.
Nefarious was
Peter off.
Believe Entertainment,
Believe. Okay.
which has released nothing of note.
I think it might be partnered with The Blaze. I know The Blaze released it. Because Glenn Beck is in the film.
But I mean, if that's one of their first releases, I mean, I think that bodes well for them.
Well,
because if they have room to grow, they're
seventh. But it's like
the first notable.
The other stuff is nothing.
Not you would
that we would notice.
know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, here's what I think is funny: is go back and look at any of the mainstream press from the last 2 weeks. And they're going to talk about the demise of Hollywood and it being a bad year. And now all of a sudden, it's literally day one of the new year, and they're like, "Well, actually, 2023, we're just going to rewrite history. It was great for Hollywood.
We actually did pretty dang good."
And it's literally like getting beat up by the bully at school, and then you go to the hospital, and they're like, "Well, you were within an inch of dying, but you're still alive. That's great." And it's like, well, yeah, thank God I didn't die completely, but I really would have prepreferred not having been bitten within an inch of my life.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying it was super dire. We obviously had some tentpole films that came out that were worthwhile. But for the most part, there's a reason why people are not ponying up the dough to go to the theaters. And even they open up the article by simply saying that really, it's proven time and time again. Hollywood bets on the moviegoer. You have to be able to put something out that people are going to take their hard-earned money to pay and support. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, let's set our prediction for the rest of this year. What do we think is going to be the box office number for 2024? Just put it out there.
I don't know. I have to really look at the releases.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say anything like it doesn't have to, again, we're just estimating. You ain't gotta think too critically about it, but I will ask, maybe let's think of what studio do we think is gonna finish on top and what do we think is gonna finish on the bottom of the major studios.
Well, I think Disney's going to be in the same trajectory. I know they are trying to right the ship, and I do think they're going to be more subtle and less blatant about some of the woke things they put in their movies. I still don't think that's going to be enough to save them this year. Snow White's going to be a flop. I don't know that they're going to be at the bottom. I don't know where they landed this year. I don't know if they were on the bottom, but I do think that's going to be a very similar.
They show at the end of that article kind of the rankings.
Yeah, I did have that up. I done closed out of the article. Crap.
And it shows them at, oh gosh, hold on. I'm scrolling up because I know Paramount was pretty much of the major ones, major studios. They finished last. Looks like it was, that's box office. Sorry, getting through the box office.
Oh, I'm pulling it back up as well.
Yeah, sorry.
Paramount might be another one that comes in dead last again, simply for the fact that I can't think of anything they have, because they pushed Dead Reckoning Part 2 back. I can't think of anything else they have on the slate that's going to draw in moviegoers.
Who is that? What,
Paramount.
Paramount.
Just like I said, they have Dead Reckoning 2, but I think they pushed that back, so I don't think that still comes out this year. So
what do they have coming out?
That's what I'm saying.
It mentions it in the article, in their little blurb.
Sony has, I mean, they have some of their they have, I think, like 3 Spider-Verse movies this year, at least 2. I know they have Craven and Madam Web. Not that that's going to be, either of those are going to be any good, but.
So hands down, this year Universal won the domestic box office.
Mm-hmm.
It won with Super Mario Brothers, Oppenheimer, Fast X, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
And then
I'm going to say
Disney came in second. But that was also because of the 20th century movies, mostly. Because their Marvel movies flopped.
I think they will do less. I mean, it's funny because they're already making excuses and bracing for it. We already know some things are pushed back. We also know that a lot of these studios are taking the quality over quantity approach, or so they say. So I expect less major releases. I'm going to go somewhere between the 7 and 8 billion mark. I think they'll
There's
fall
a lot
in there.
of big name movies coming out this year, though.
Are there? Because a lot of them got delayed.
I'm looking at
What's on the
everything
schedule?
on the schedule right now, and it's like I'm just gonna go through just a couple of them. But I know the Mean Girls is gonna be big.
I don't think it will be though.
That's
I
this
think it will
month.
be.
I think.
I mean, I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's going to be massive.
Got, Argyle, which I think will draw people.
I'm not expecting that. I actually think that one will be a flop. And I think it may be entertaining, but I do think it will be a
Of
flop.
course, you've got Dune. You've got.
See, Dune was the only one I could think of that was huge.
You've got. Let's see here. What was the other one?
That's early
Ghostbusters.
on.
Ghostbusters comes out in March.
And
Kung
that's
Fu Panda
good for
4 comes out
Sony.
in March. You've got
That's
Godzilla in
DreamWorks.
April. You've got. I don't think it's going to be big, but I'm interested in it. You've got Civil War coming out in April. Furiosa is in May.
Mm-hmm.
Garfield's in May. Planet of the Apes is in May.
Planet of the Apes. is
Bad
actually one I
Boys
think that's
4
gonna
is
flop.
in June. Inside Out 2 is in June, which I don't think will do as good as they expect. A Quiet Place Day 1
Really?
is in June.
I haven't heard anything about that. I'd be surprised if that actually is coming.
Yeah, I haven't
don't
heard
know.
nothing.
It's still on the
about that.
schedule. Despicable Me 4. Twisters is scheduled for June.
What are they? Is this like a sequel?
Deadpool 3 is
It has
July.
none of the original cast.
Terrible. You can't beat the original.
You've got Kraven the Hunter. Beetlejuice 2 is September. Transformers 1 is September. Saw... Oh, God.
Saw 11, yeah. But I haven't heard anything about
September.
that either, so I wonder if that's actually...
I don't think that one's
Joker
coming
comes out in October.
Now Joker will be a big
Wolfman's
one.
October.
Venom 3 was the other
Venom 3 is
Sony
November.
Marvel one, yeah.
Gladiator 2 is November. The Incredibles, the 27th or November.
See, Gladiator 2, I'm questioning because I think that's one that's going to end up getting canceled.
Karate Kid remake December, and the Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim is December.
Oh, if that actually comes out next year, I'm excited for that. But I don't think it's going to be huge.
Sonic 3
either.
is December, and Nosferatu is December.
Okay. See, there's a lot of these that I just think it feels like a lot of like same with this year. There should be big releases, but I don't think they're going to have the impact that they should have had for a lot of those movies.
The Bob Marley movie comes out in February. Which I don't think anybody's gonna.
Yeah,
I mean that's okay. This is the weird thing. Of all of those, and again, I was wrong about Barbenheimer.
Oh yeah.
But I think Barbenheimer was again. I think so much of that revolved around the odds that it was it was the odd couple. It was let's go see both these movies because they're the polar opposite, and they both came out on the same day. And I will say that I just don't see any of those films being a Barbenheimer type success. And that was the only thing that I think gave this year or the previous year, 2023, a leg up. I don't see that on this year's slate.
Not to just parrot what the article estimated, seeing some of the bigger releases and still not thinking they're going to have as heavy a pull as they should, I will go more with the 8 billion then.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't think this year will. I mean, and I'm happy to be wrong because I would rather these movies all be fantastic and worth seeing. I just don't trust Hollywood anymore, so I think some of them are going to turn out to be duds.
Same. I don't know if it's going to be enough to draw people to the theater. I mean,
I guess I'm just being a little jaded right now. Hollywood sucks.
I think we're tampering our expectations, not only just based on what their predictions are, but I think based off of what they just turned out from the previous year. And yeah, I'm sorry, but just because I may show up at the theater more times this year and be entertained more this year, which I think there's a fair bit of a chance that may happen. Based on what's on the slate, or at least I'll say I think it'll be evenly spread out throughout the year versus last year.
And that's nice, yeah.
But even then, I don't think there are going to be movies that I think are generally going to be overwhelmingly positive for the box office. I don't think they're going to get more than just outside the base of normal moviegoers to come. And so I'm going to actually err on. Funny enough, I'm actually going to go a little bit more positive than Keith. I'm going to say the same amount, 9 billion.
9 billion.
I think 9 billion.
I mean, I think that's. I think that's fair. I think, like looking through them, and Sean's right. There is a massive amount of, even without, because Disney has next to nothing on here, and thank you. We
don't want it
because they do need to take a chill pill for a minute and figure their crap out. Because
they kicked back the Captain America movie.
They don't have any Marvel movies coming out except for Deadpool 3.
Deadpool 3, yeah.
Which I'm thankful for.
The Thunderbolts is still slated.
Is it? I thought they said canceled.
They said no, it's not canceled. But the only movie
is that a movie or a show?
It's a movie.
Oh, okay.
The only movie they have coming out this year they've already announced is Deadpool
2025. Thunderbolts.
There's definitely things I'm interested in. There's definitely things that I hope prove me wrong and are better than I expect. I would be glad if they did more than this year if these movies are actually good, because there are a lot. There are a lot of big names on here. I just am very skeptical of all of them.
Yeah.
Except for, I think Dune's the only one that I'm not that skeptical of. Even Planet of the Apes, I'm a little hesitant about.
Same. There's a lot on here.
Joker, I'm looking forward to. They haven't.
Right.
There's no reason for me to doubt that one yet.
There's a lot on here I'm interested in, but there's not a lot that I have high hopes for, other than major tentpole ones like Joker, like Dune. There's just not so much. I mean,
Smile 2 is supposed to be October. What's the point of that? The first one was okay, but it wasn't good enough.
To piggyback off its success.
The first one was a decent movie, but it wasn't good enough that I think it needed a sequel.
Agreed. I didn't think so either. But time will tell. We'll obviously be giving you our opinions, and when we review these movies throughout the year, we're going to tell you what we think of them. And who knows, maybe we enjoy a lot of these that are coming out, but what'll really matter is
I would
that
like to.
dollar.
I honestly, so many of these I would really like to enjoy. I
hope they're good.
Yeah.
So I have high hopes in that regard for what's on the slate.
Yeah.
Just will it meet those expectations?
We had a lot of high hopes for this year too.
That's true.
and they were let down. So.
I mean, I will say that I think even at the beginning of the year, we all had our expectations kind of, tempered by, in terms of Geriatric Jones, even I think Oppenheimer, I was a little bit skeptical of it. I was hopeful, of course, and I was really looking forward to and excited. But obviously, I didn't have any high hopes for Barbie. It probably surprised me more so in certain ways.
Yeah, that's one of the best performing movies of the year.
Oh yeah, no, it was the top.
It was
performing.
the top. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was the top.
That's just crazy.
It'll get an Oscar nom.
Oh yeah, it'll be a Best Picture nom.
It and Oppenheimer are the two that are on the top of all of the list on Gold Derby.
Yep. Because of the cultural phenomenon it was, and it's just insane. But we're gonna move on to 2024, and one of the other things that just happened, it just so happened to lapse and become public domain in this year of our Lord 2024.
Steamboat Willie.
Mickey Mouse enters the public domain.
Just the Steamboat Willie
Sorta. That's what the headline says, because you're right, Keith. It is just the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse.
This really interests me because now that it's in public domain, of course, all the people that made Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey have already announced they're doing a Mickey Mouse horror movie. And I'm just, but it's so stupid. Like the Blood and Honey was terrible.
The memes though have been hilarious of Steamboat Willie, and then it has a speech bubble, and everybody's been putting in things that they just would be awful for Mickey Mouse to say. It's been pretty hilarious.
The thing that's funny though is because it's only that version, like it's going to be hard for some. Like okay, this Mickey Mouse horror movie they're doing, all the Winnie the Pooh was a Winnie the Pooh mask that some dude wore while he was running around killing, and like the clips they've shown of the Mickey Mouse one's the same thing, and I'm like, that's dangerous because Disney could fight that and be like, well, that's not an exact representation of Mickey from Steamboat Willie. Well, you can't do that.
And even then, though, are they really going to?
It depends.
Because here's the thing.
They need money.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. But
they aren't as
why
protective
would they fight something that's not guaranteed? And look,
true.
The whole point and what ticks me off about this is that, one, it's great that, hey, you can use this in the public domain. But it's incredibly weird that I'm like, well, yeah, what does that extend to? I mean, can somebody, as long as it, because even if you hand draw as close, even if you're a good artist, you have to draw it in the same vein as Steamboat Willie.
It has to look like that Steamboat Willie Mickey, or if it could be in
right. And I think that's the incredible / also asinine thing, is because, again, just another reason to just wish a meteor would hit Washington, D.C. and wipe them off the face of the earth, because we don't need them. They're a waste of space. But they literally, this copyright was extended for 25 plus years.
Oh, yeah. Disney fought
because there were so many different incremental stages in which they lobbied Congress, and of course Congress gave in.
It used to be like 70 years, and then they got it extended to 95, which is where the extra 25 years came from.
And it just kills me, because I'm just like, well, at first it was like 10.
Yeah. No,
and then they went again, and they got it lobbied
Disney
again
has
for
lobbied
another.
Several times. They didn't try this time.
They finally let it lapse because, I don't know, Steamboat Willie is 100 years old.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell? Come on. Seriously?
Well, they also admitted
ridiculous.
that Mickey Mouse isn't their highest source of revenue anymore. So I'm like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, it's 100 years old. It's ridiculous to keep fighting. That I could see. But the fact that Disney themselves are just like, yeah, we don't even give a crap about Mickey anymore.
Well, and I watched
I'm like, well, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, that was one of a video that I watched online. It was pretty incredible, honestly, about how much Disney does not care. I mean, this just shows how they've lost their roots. They don't know where they came from. They are so far from what Walt Disney wanted out of his legacy that they deserve to fail at every turn for the next couple, I would say the next 5 years. They need a good slap in waking up when it comes to their own financial ruin. Because here's the thing. They don't even care about Mickey Mouse to the degree that anything that is made with Mickey Mouse today is so far and away below what used to be their bread and butter, because they have Lucasfilm, because they have Marvel.
Yep.
They have the Disney resorts and all of these. It pales in comparison to the billions that they still make off these other IP. That it just shows you that, financially, just a few years ago, we were cheering them on because Disney was a trusted name. It was a household brand that you were thinking, there's no way they can screw this up. And slowly but surely, give it time, and here's where we are, only just 5-6 short years later. They have managed to ruin one of the greatest names, the greatest names in an entire century. I mean, it literally is, I think, what at one time would have been considered one of the greatest legacies left behind by America.
Yeah.
And, should the end of America ever, come. And it's like, that to me is the crazy thing, that it took 100 years and they've destroyed it in the last 5.
Yep.
And it's sad to see, and it's just ultimately, to me, that's what this says. It's not that we're gonna run out and try to make a Steamboat Willie cartoon for Red Moon.
Yeah.
It'd be great, Nathan.
Yeah.
Try it.
Nathan, if you're out there listening, make a Steamboat Willie cartoon. We'll promote it.
Yeah.
It's public domain, man.
Yeah.
But no, it just to harken back to that and to show. It literally is. It's like they're just throwing out the remnants of what they used to be, and they're just casting it aside as if that doesn't matter anymore. And granted, look, I'm all for things entering the public domain and the right. I was just complaining about it being people lobbying for it to uphold the rights for several years, longer than it should have. And yeah, I mean, I think there should be a certain lapse of creative, freedom.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
time,
think,
yeah.
Congress should have given in, and it should have lapsed a long time ago. But it just shows you that, because the idea is that it spawns new ideas. But the problem is look at where Disney's been left for the last, 5-6 years, or even the last decade, really. All they've done is just become a bigger company by buying out their competition, or buying things and properties that make them more successful. And you may say, well, that's just smart business. No, it is. It is.
Until you start running everything you bought into the ground.
Exactly. Until you squander the chance that you had at making something that was memorable. And so I really do think that this is just another telling of where we're at with Disney, and just how far they've fallen. It's really sad. It is. Alrighty, guys. You're supposed to wait.
That's one of their properties now.
It's true. We get some joy out of it, I guess. Alrighty, guys. We're going to move into our relationship segment. First of the year.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing called love.
Oh, wow.
You satisfied now?
That's a good
3
relationship.
times, man.
Well, the 2 were directed at Disney, and then that was the obligatory relationship. I hate you.
Of course. Well, you know what, Keith? I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah. That's perfect.
That's perfect. I mean,
That's perfect.
It's not really working yet.
Prayer
Not
works.
quite,
So you
but-
say prayer doesn't work?
Not for you.
Not yet.
Yes, we're talking about prayer. Praying in relationships. Yes, that's right. Let's talk about it, guys. And look, we can open this into a broader discussion. I thought it was interesting because obviously, yes, we've talked about God in relationships, but I wanted to get a little bit more granular.
Prayer's a little bit more nuanced, yeah.
But it
and
also
its role in relationships.
I was saying, and in a way, it's like praying to God, but also praying for others.
For others, yeah.
I think
or praying with others.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to open that up and into that discussion. We can take it any direction y'all want to take it.
Any direction, huh?
Any direction.
I mean, I do think prayer works. I've recently with we were just talking about like over Christmas and all the chaos going on in my family there, with multiple people being sick and having to move Christmas back. But then more significantly, my uncle who went into the hospital that we didn't think would be coming out of the hospital.
Incredible story.
That we didn't really even. I don't think we were. There was a point in time when we didn't really expect him to even live to see Christmas, and I mean, not a complete turnaround, but he is definitely alert and aware and doing better, and hopefully some progress can be made there with continued prayer. And it's one of those things where, I think prayer works. Miracles can happen. I'm not saying that these just bombastic, amazing miracles happen every day. People like roll their eyes when you say, "Oh, miracles are real," and it's like, but yeah, there are real miracles in the world, and part of that I think does come from prayer and your faith in God. And I think having that relationship and having a relationship with your family that feels the same way, or even if you have members that don't feel the same way but aren't necessarily opposed to you praying for them, I think there is a significance there that not just strengthens your relationship with God, because that's who you're turning to answer your prayers, but also I think with your family members, because you know you have people there that are on your side, that are rooting for you. And even to people, because I know there's the people that would scoff. I mean, we've seen in the media, of course, your prayers are with them, but what are you actually going to do to help them? It's like, well, sometimes all you can do is prayer. And the fact that someone who believes in a power higher than themselves, a power that can do anything, is willing to put you in their prayers because they want that higher power to protect and guide you, is like, you can scoff at that, but that is a very significant gesture, even if you don't believe in it, because they're basically saying the entity that I believe in above all, I want to guard and protect you. Yep. And you could take that and say, and slap someone in the face and be like, well, that's just useless. It's like, fine, then so be it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's useless to. It's useless to an unbeliever.
Yes, and I
it's
get
like
that.
To someone who believes, that's
everything.
I can't answer your prayer. I might not be able to help you, but he can.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the one who can.
Yeah.
The only person that you believe can help.
To me,
yeah.
that says a lot about the love that I have for a brother or a sister in need. Like the fact that I'm willing to go to him on your behalf, which we're supposed to do for one another.
Yes.
That's not. I'm not going to get into the weeds of trying to get some saint or the mother of Jesus to go on my behalf or whatever. But I will definitely think there is power in prayer. In the book of James, it says there's power in prayer. All throughout the Bible, we hear about prayer, and that's what I believe in. So that's I also think there's to go to just kind of piggyback off what you said. I think a lot of the times we definitely will say that we're going to pray for each other. Not just us, but I mean anybody that posts on Facebook, or we hear about things in our family and we're like, man, I'll be praying for them. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we put it on the back burner and forget. But one of the extra steps, and I think it means a lot for that other person, is when they come to you with a need, or they're just talking and hoping that you're there just to listen, and you might not have the answer and or able to fix it. But when you're sitting with somebody or talking to somebody and you say, man, this is going to be weird or whatever, but can I just pray for you, like now, in person? Like, that's hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
It's very hard to do. Like, when I do it, I get queasy and choked up and sometimes cry, because it's, I don't know, like I'm on another level. I'm not just praying for you at night before I go to bed. Like I'm going to do it with you.
So you're not just an
in person.
afterthought.
Yeah,
this
and I think just to, and again, it's not always the right time to do that. I don't feel like that's just like you walk up to people on the street. Maybe you feel led to do that. That's fine. I think if you feel led to do that, then it's going to work out, and it's not going to be that uncomfortable for you or the other person. But I think there's definitely times that you can text somebody and say, man, I'm really sorry to hear about that. I'm praying for you.
Right.
And then really do it.
Right.
But then there's also those moments where I think we're given opportunities to just put your hand on somebody's shoulder and say, man, let me pray for you now, here in the now. And I think that goes a little bit further to the unbelief that some people have when they just hear you say, yeah, I'll be praying for you. I'll put your name on my refrigerator door, so I pass it every now and then when I'm getting milk.
Add you to the prayer request.
At that point, they do. They just roll their eyes.
Yeah, and they're just like,
well,
what's that? But yeah, when you, especially if you know it's somebody that already has that kind of view towards prayer, when you actually stop to pray for somebody, it shows the compassion that you have for them and their situation, and it also takes guts to be able to do that out loud and go to your God with that person and invite them into that moment that you're having with God, invite them into that moment with you. That's really hard to do. But I think that is one of those things that I struggle with, that I would even, it's not like a New Year's resolution, but I would say now that I'm thinking about it, that's something that I need to do more, is when I'm actually telling somebody I'm going to pray with you. Because I've told people over the phone, like I'm talking to them, and I've said, yeah, man, I'll
pray for you.
I'll pray for you. And I'm kind of like, I feel guilt sometimes because I'm just like, I got him on the phone. Why would I not just say, let me pray for you now?
Yeah.
And it's hard, and it takes bravery and courage to do that. But I definitely think that's something that says a lot about the relationship you have with God, but also a lot about the relationship you have with that other person.
True.
Is if you're willing to do that for somebody and not just forget about it later, because we all do that. We say we're going to do it and then we forget about it. But that's something that I would like to work on.
Take the easy way out and be like, well, God, you already know what I want to pray about.
Yeah. And we absolutely do that. We're just like, well, he knows my heart. He knows what
like
I'm. It's true. That's not false.
Right.
But he also, I think, wants to hear from you.
It's the act of actually.
It's
a
sacrifice to pray.
And I was going to say, I mean, I think to actually take the time out of your day to, whether it's with someone or even privately, I think it proves. I mean, I think about it in terms of anything else. It's like there's a difference between giving your time with somebody if you're just spending it and, oh yeah, let's get together and let's hang out, and then you're sitting there and you're hanging out and then you're just on your phone the whole time. It's like, what's different than you just doing that in private without them being there?
Because we're together.
And maybe when you're 50 years down the road married to your spouse, it's like that's you just know them being there all that matters. But no, I think it shows a level of sincerity, but also a level of depth in saying, okay, no, this is a priority. This is something I take seriously. And it's being deliberate about stopping what you're doing in a given day and saying, okay, I'm going to take the time to make this a priority. Because, there's definitely times where I've been driving and something pops in my head and I'll say it quickly. Or maybe even under my breath, But and there's definitely times where I'm like, call me weird or whatnot. But even if I'm just sitting around and I'm talking to myself to try to work through some things that are going on in my head,
right?
I often do, maybe not so much when I was younger, just because I think it's not necessarily a religious thing as much as it isn't just an age thing. But I think as I've grown deeper in my faith, as I've gotten older, I think it is a situation of having those conversations out loud. And knowing that God is hearing that. I don't think he's ignoring it. I think he understands that. Just like, he does understand your heart. But I think when you actually intentionally go out of your way to speak to him deliberately, it's an act of admission and submission in saying that I'm not in control. I don't have this power of my own. I do submit to you. I understand that, you are someone that I need in my life, and I need that relationship. And that's the other thing. I think it cultivates a relationship with God that he yearns for in each one of us. Because I think so often we get caught up in the day-to-day, or whether it is praying when, not that it's a bad thing, but when we need something, or when we want to pray for, someone to get over a sickness or get over, a hurdle in their life. And yet we don't take the time to just sit down and say, you know what? Other than just praying about all the things that I'm hoping, I'll pray for those things, but why not just in the way that I go and I have communion? Why not in the way that I go and I ask and pray for forgiveness, that I actually just have a conversation with you, that I actually enjoy this communion in spirit with you, that I can welcome you here and say, I want to hear from you. I want to have that oneness.
Or be thankful too.
Exactly.
Instead of praying for what we need, like just thanking for what we've got.
The blessings we have. I mean, I think so much of it, and I'm more so talking about on a relationship level of one-on-one with God, which often, obviously, that's what you associate with prayer, and no doubt it is. But I think, obviously, that prayer in relationships as well, absolutely, whether it's somebody that you're close to, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a family member, I think there is something about, obviously something I learned when I was way younger, but you keep it up as a tradition, but you also realize how important it is as you get older. Just praying before every meal, something I'm not great at when I'm on my own.
Same.
That I've tried to, to do just to stir it back up into being thankful and blessed. But it's just taking that time to be very honest and open about, okay, no, this is something that is important that I need to focus on, and I think it only helps you in your other relationships that you do have in your life.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think you went back to relationships with a spouse. I can say some of the most powerful or strengthening moments that I've had in my marriage are the moments where we've both broken down and prayed together for something, whether it's about our kids or a decision that we're trying to make as a family or what one of us is going through at the time. And it's like, if you can pray together with a person, then that's a strong relationship. I think it's going to be a strong relationship.
No doubt.
Hopefully if you're in a relationship and you're a person of faith, you're with another person of faith and not unequally yoked, because I think that kind of makes for a bad marriage or a bad relationship. But if you can break down and pray together, that's walls that you didn't even know were there come down.
Well, I think it just knows you're both coming from the same foundation.
Yeah.
And you both realize that what you're looking for is not only God's will and his purpose for you and your marriage and your union, but how are you best showcasing that relationship of him and magnifying what the marriage is, which is a magnification of Christ and his church and that union. And I think it's like when you put that in perspective and you're praying together, okay, this is someone that I can go to war with, I can go to battle with.
Yeah.
Which is hugely important.
Share the load.
There you go.
Together.
Indeed.
Sam and Frodo, I bet if they were Christians, they would have prayed together.
Yeah.
Hey, who's to say they didn't pray in their little hobbit holes?
They might have
I'm just saying.
in their hobbit holes.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I'll confess, when it comes to praying out loud or praying for somebody like this over the holiday, one of Amelia's family members that we were with before Christmas shared some stuff they were going through, and we're sitting at the dinner table talking about this stuff, and I had it like heavy on my heart to just
say something.
To just say, look, I mean, let's do it right. Let's pray right now for this, because this is bad. Like, this is what you're going through. It's terrible. And it was like, but I was a coward, like big time. Like I chickened out, and I felt it all night long. I was just like, man, that was a wasted opportunity. This woman's crying, and I sat here and claimed to be this man of faith, and I was right there. And I had it like,
but that's a perfect example.
We all do that. We all
do it, and also it's in those moments of just being human and being broken that you pray to be stronger.
Right, and that's one of those things where I agree completely with anybody who would say, like, yeah, he knows my heart. It's like, absolutely. Like, I walked away from that night thinking like the disappointment that I had was in myself.
Yeah,
but I never for once felt like my Father in heaven was disappointed in me. Like, he knew what was in my heart.
Right.
And I didn't feel like I let him down. I felt like I was I wasn't courageous in that moment, and that letting myself down.
Like any Christian who stumbles and who falls short whenever they're struggling with something. And absolutely. That's the thing I think is, again, another reason. I think that's the weirdest thing that I've come to. It's just become a part of the reason it made it a relationship topic tonight, was because it's just been something that I've been not only struggling with, but getting better about. And so I wanted to talk about not only the power of prayer in that regard, but also and how important and impactful it is. But also, so many times in the past when I've struggled with praying, it's always been kind of a back burner thing. And it's always been I'm disappointed in myself and how I failed. And so I'm just not going to go to God yet, because it's like you have that sense of shame.
Yeah.
And yet the weird thing about it is it's like,
he already knows, so it's kind of
not only does he already know, it's like that's when you go to him in prayer.
Yeah.
It's like that's when you turn to him, is in your weakest moments.
I think that's one of the ways that that Satan can get us out of that relationship with God. Is like, no, you're a failure. You don't want to go talk to him right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
he's going to shame you even more.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because that's when you need to go to him the most.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's the same, whether it's cliche or not, it's the same, kind of sermon that's preached every Sunday about that's what, the pews are there for. The pews for the church are there for the brokenhearted, and it is a hospital for broken people. We all fall short of the glory. And it's like, to me, that is the essence of the same with being in that one-on-one with God in that moment of prayer, is is realizing, okay, no, I do fall short, and I do come up short all the time, but I need your strength to get me through this and to tell me and guide me through this hardship that I'm facing right now. So please lead me.
Yeah.
Not turn away from him and saying, no, I don't want to go to you because I just feel exposed. It's like, well, of course you're exposed.
Yeah.
It's God. He knows you
Yeah.
through and through. He knows your heart. It's like, open up to him, and he wants to heal your wounds, and he wants that relationship with you.
But
Don't
it's
turn
like
away
Adam
from him.
hiding in the garden. It's like that's
Yes.
that's what
Yeah.
I feel.
It
Because
is.
That's exactly how I feel like sometimes when you do go to pray and you like feel ashamed or you feel awkward, and it's like, well, I'm embarrassed, so I don't want to discuss this. But it's like, but you can't hide from God, so it's silly
Right.
to not do it because it's just like. It's like, well, you already know, so I ain't got to say
Yeah.
it. It's like, well, that's not the point. The point is that he wants you to come to him with your burdens.
You feel
and with these
better.
tasks. Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I think
you
that's one
do.
of the
You
that's
do.
one
You
of the
feel
biggest
way
blessings
better.
of prayer is like even if your prayer isn't answered in a way that you can see it, because
Right.
some things we might pray for, it might be answered after you're dead. Like I mean, you may never see the fruit, you know, and it's like, but that's one of those things where I feel like even though you're trying to hide, you feel better when you confess that, you
Yes.
know, or when you do open up. It's like I tell my son all the time, I'm like, if you just tell me the truth, or if you just tell, you know, like if you feel a certain way or whatever, just tell me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I might get mad, and there might be consequences because of what you did deserves consequences, but you will feel better.
Yep.
For letting that out
The
and
truth
for
will
telling,
set you
yeah,
free.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like we have a Father, is the same exact way.
Yep.
And just like a good dad, we can go to him.
Yep.
And confess that, or just say how we're feeling, and we'll feel better for doing so.
And I liked what you underpin there about, you don't. I think God knows your heart, and God also knows when you're being selfish and when you're praying for something that either one you're not ready for, or one that you're asking for something that's out of line. It's like God knows that. Hey, look,
ulterior motives,
right?
Yeah.
It's like, so what's your aim here? And it's like, if it's for your own self-preservation and for your own glory, and it's not for His, then of course He's not going to magnify that. He's not going to glorify it, because it's not about you. And for anybody who wants to, that final drop got him.
It got me.
There you go.
That was good.
There you go.
That was a good burp.
I need y'all to pray that I make it home safe tonight.
Don't burp on the way home.
Man,
Go lose it at the wheel.
I am sorry.
No,
I did
no,
not
it's
mean
fine.
to interrupt you at all. That was, oh man, I got down to the bottom of that, and it was just nothing but alcohol.
It was just soaking it up there. But no,
burned my throat.
Just ending on that, it's just, I think that ultimately, God knows when He will provide for you in ways that you need, not in ways that you want.
Yeah.
And too many people go to prayer thinking that he's a slot machine.
Yeah.
I'm going to put in my quarter, pull the lever, and see
Yeah.
what kind of goodies come out. And it's like, God's not a slot machine. He desires that one-on-one connection with you. He desires that life, you giving your life for Him in the way that He has given it to us through His Son. And I think that so much we are not only blinded by that or fail in that regard, no doubt, but ultimately that, He wants that relationship with us, and prayer opens that up. So yeah, I think that's a good relationship segment. I think that was a good way to end the night.
Yep. We
Not
need to
with-
pray for 2024 box office.
Yeah.
And we need to pray for our country.
We need to pray for Hollywood that they just,
That's
it's
got me
coming
good.
back. Hollywood
It's got
is
him.
they're gone. I think there's no prayer for Hollywood other than it just gets supplanted and moved. We are Hollywood now.
Yeah.
Tune into the Red Moon Podcast every single week, right here live on Tuesdays at
Always
9 p.m.
entertaining.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Right there at the bottom of your screen, you can reach us, like, share, subscribe on all of our social media pages. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, and Red Moon Pics on Instagram. Of course, search for Red Moon Productions on Rumble and YouTube.
Ooh.
We're still trying to work on that Rumble Live. We're slow,
It's coming.
but sure. It's right around the corner, though. We're working on it. But right there at the bottom of your screen, all of our social media. Thank you all so much. There is one other way to reach us, though.
One old-fashioned way.
Keith, do you know who has it?
Are you talking
Through
about letters
an
to God?
electronic email.
Dear God, it's me, Margaret.
You could pray to God, and maybe
Margaret's Monsters.
He will alert us. But you could try to do a more direct approach and send us an email
I think my dog is dead.
Whoa. You just said you could pray to God, or you could take a more direct approach
To
and
us.
email us.
Because I don't think
Because
God...
we relay messages to God?
No. To contact us. You could pray to God, but...
But the more direct way is contacting us.
Yeah, if I pray to God, tell Sean something, I'm not sure you're going to get that message. I don't think prayer works that way, Sean.
Wow.
I just took a picture of my dog. She may be dead.
I mean, you can try to twist my words, but I'm just saying,
there
hey,
she is. She's good.
She's up.
She's good.
if I say, hey,
She was out,
God,
man.
tell Sean I'm not going to make it to his house this Friday, I don't think you're going to get that message.
What?
I might.
You might. I'm not saying you won't, but I'm just saying,
There's only one way to find out.
okay.
Okay.
They can
The next
email
time
us.
you-
They can email us.
Yeah.
Let us know. Hey, email it. I can say this. Email us your prayer requests.
Oh,
You can.
There you go.
And we will pray for you.
yeah. Seriously.
And that is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. And what is that
Yeah.
email, Keith?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
You know,
I
even
swear,
when he's sick.
if we start getting, we don't ever get emails.
Hey,
if we start getting prayer
request,
request
I'm okay
emails,
with that.
You know, thank the Lord.
We're gonna know which
Thank the
direction
Lord,
this
yeah.
podcast needs to go. We're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna be a religious podcast. From
We
now
won't
on.
need Hollywood anymore.
That's right.
We'll be out to save them by turning this show
That's right.
from Hollywood into Benny Hinn. No, I'm just kidding. We're not turning this into the TBN.
Joel
Oh,
Osteen.
gosh. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Wait till next week's episode when we review. We don't know yet. We're going to figure that out. But we'll let y'all know. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and Dag Paftra.
No, he's dead.
What?
The strikes are over.
Dag's dead?
Yeah, Dag died.
Dead.
Oh, no.
Zed's dead.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.